So powerful.
Yeah.
And and also look at how can we view failure through a lit lens to get more out of the experience. So failure is so much will bring a shame story on hard into somebody. Tell me about that. How can we view failure through a lit lens?
Yeah. So in science, in research, we experience a lot of failure because we're constantly doing things where we don't know whether it's going to work out or not.
Okay.
And so
I didn't know that about science, but yes, I guess you're experimenting, you're seeing it doesn't work, you keep going.
Most of the time it doesn't work.
Okay.
So, 9 out of 10 times, or, 99 out of 100, depends what you're doing, especially in biology, like most of the things don't work. And so what I realized is, and I'll just give an example of writing grants. So when I started my laboratory, I was advised to basically take what I had done before and just do something a little different, and that would sort of de-risk in the minds of the reviewers to think like he can actually do this. Right. But I felt this gravity to reinvent myself. I wanted to do things I'd never done before. I didn't want to just continue along an incremental path.
Right.
And so I would write these grants just based on ideas that I would have in the shower, or just like things that I came up with, like just in conversations with other people. And it was grant rejection after grant rejection. And literally almost the first 2.5 years, I wrote over 100 grants. Almost every single grant was rejected.
Jeez.
And
you didn't give up.
Well, what happened at one point is Jessica, my wife, I came home one day and, because I was at the point where I was getting multiple grant rejections a month and sometimes a week. And she said, "Are you sure this is the right career for you?" Right.
Normal question.
It was a very normal question, but it was almost like that fueled me even more in some ways. But what I realized was, something very profound, this profound, almost light bulb moment, which was, I realized that when I got a rejection, it was like a punch in the face. It really felt a negative. I felt angry. I would look at some of the reviews. How could they think this? They missed that. Like I was just angry at the actual reviewers and the process. But what I noticed is if I got a good night's sleep or two, that emotion would actually subside. And there was this almost like after the rain moment where my brain was fully open and ready to process new insights. Wow. And I would go back to the reviews and I would read through them. And I thought, and here was the light bulb moment, was like, wait a moment, I am being educated here on how to write a better grant. Right? On how did my
you started to learn from the feedback.
I started to learn from the feedback after I was able to let the emotions subside.
Go down.
Right? I had to wait for that to go down. And so I got into this, I recognized the pattern of my own sort of reaction, and then this sort of opening of my mind, this mind expansion where I was able to, and I started getting better and better at writing grants. And then I got to the point where I literally could see the 10 reviewers when I was writing the grant. I could see the 10 reviewers around the table in my mind and every negative thing that they would say. And I was able to address it. And my grant success rate, went up and up. And at the 2.5-year mark, I ended up getting 3 massive grants came in my lab. It was like $4 or $5 million. And my lab size tripled and I was off to the races.
Wow. That is using a lit mind of not allowing yourself to go shame spiral, but learning from the experience and then adapting what you've learned to the next iteration of it.
Yeah. And
fantastic.
I'll add one more thing to this. So I was just speaking with a previous student from the lab, and she was asking me, she's just about to graduate from her PhD, and she was asking me about, whether she's interested in going the academic route, becoming faculty, but other people have advised her that writing grants is a really horrible experience. And, like,
you have some light to shed on
right.
That. Yeah.
Like, almost like sort of like there's this fear that people are transmitting to others. And I was thinking about it and I thought, I think when we experience this type of fear about something, it's because we hit a plateau and we're not looking at it as a learning experience. We haven't.
That's the key, isn't it?
I think that's the key. Right. Is like finding a way to frame everything we're doing as a learning experience, that when we
underscore that, star that,
looking for an insight, like there's the goal of getting the grant. It's important to get the grant at some point, but it may not be essential to get the first grant. Like in my case, for example, I had 2.5, 3 years, actually it was 3 years of funding to explore and experiment, and then my funding would run out. So it was important that I got these grants at some point, right. But there was this time that I had to engage and sort of tune into this idea of learning, and it just made me think that if we can frame things in terms of just gaining an insight, or just, okay, I know that I want to reach this goal, right, but maybe what I should do is say that goal is going to come if I can gradually get on a path of learning and gaining insights. That will happen. Right. But let's focus on the smaller pieces that are really just about the learning process. Because as we learn, again, our brains literally light up, and these neurotransmitters are just make us feel wonderful. And we can easily get into negativity when we're not learning, which is when we hit these plateaus. Right. And the other thing that I'll say on this is that I've realized sometimes we don't have the answers ourselves. We don't know how to get on a track of learning in a particular way. But if we start voicing it to other people, we start interacting, we start asking other people, how do you, what's your process for writing grants and staying on track and really sort of feeling good about it and making that incremental progress? Once we start like vocalizing
creating community,
we create community around it. We start hearing other people's examples, and then we have all of these different methodologies to try on and see if they work for us.
It's amazing. I'm so, this conversation could go on and on and on and on, because it's fascinating. It's useful. It's transformational. It impacts the world. It impacts our bodies. I always say to people, disappointment is not going to kill you. So might as well try. It's not going to kill you. It absolutely will not kill you. And people I find will not do affirmations or visualizations or mind state shifts because, well, what if I'm disappointed, or what if it doesn't go my way? That's not going to kill you. Understand that builds resiliency, and you can learn from it and transform and keep moving forward. So I feel that your work is just again, so aligned with my work, but B, incredibly impactful for the planet and for human consciousness raising, actually. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I'm thrilled with your book.
Yeah. And, and again, just going back to nature, I mean, to me, it's such an incredible reference point when you sort of look at the evolution, the experimentation, and really sort of just recognize this concept of there being no end goal. Yeah. And that if one of the ways that we choose to lead our lives is to sort of learn lessons from nature and have nature be one of the key examples, we start to realize that learning really is the approach, and this sort of interconnectedness of everything, this matrix where there's all these nodes and we're a node.
So less perfectionism.
Yeah, like it's about, we're all contributing to this wondrous web of life. We're all depending on
it. Less control, less perfectionism, more experimentation.
Yeah, and just realizing
openness to learn.
We're all in this together, and we have so much to gain. Like there's again, coming back to the bike ride and saying hello everyone. Yeah. Like there's these little tiny nano opportunities for us to just to seek energy from others and to give others energy. And it just feels wonderful when you connect with another human being. Like we all have that as part of our wiring, that I think when we experience even these, I used to think small talk was like not worthwhile, and, it wasn't. But then when I started thinking about energy transfer and even just saying hello to somebody and looking into their eyes and experiencing just that moment of connection, I feel so fired up. Like it just, there's that pulse. And I'll say one more thing about it, which is, I used to be the guy who would take my dogs on a walk in the neighborhood, have my phone on Netflix, and I'd watch a movie while I was walking the dogs around the neighborhood. And I felt like I was checking all the boxes because here I was getting through episodes.
I'm getting through the episodes.
Right.
I'm effective.
Right. Yeah. I'm effective. And but as I've kind of made this transition and into more awareness and more just sort of living intentionally, and now I set the intention to connect with the dogs. And what I realize is that,
wow, I love that,
as I'm walking with the dogs, I'm constantly interacting with them. And Ginger will look back at me once every minute or two, and when we see each other, it's like this moment that's so precious. And then Ryder will look back at me once every 5 or 10 minutes. When we make eye contact, he gets this burst of energy.
Wow.
Like I see his tail wags more, and like I'm looking for these cues, right? And to me, it's like tuning into that energy transfer. It's unbelievable. It feels so good. And we all have access to doing that, And
I want people to be inspired by this book and by Jeff, because I am very inspired by you. I find it very, very powerful. And again, simple yet profound, simple yet profound. You talk a lot about simplicity being, when all, just keep it simple,
radical simplicity.
Radical simplicity. I love that. And these are simple but very profound ways to actually transform your life. How can people get the book? That's one important thing.
Absolutely. So the book should be available at most major outlets, or they can go to my website.
Right.
So it's just jeffkarp.com, Karp with a K. And you can also access other information. There's bonus material there that you can access that's not in the book. And then there's like a section on my laboratory, so you can find out some of the things going on in my lab. And then my mom we were talking about this.
I was going to say, the one thing I wanted to make sure I didn't leave out is your mother, fierce warrior for you when you're a little boy and you're being bullied, and you're being not only bullied by kids, but bullied by teachers who are really just not believing in you, and basically putting you in a box of failure, essentially. And your mother's like, no, that's not going to be your reality. You're this really smart kid, and I'm going to facilitate a road for you to actually find your success. And I just what an amazing mom. What a fierce warrior of a mom that you have.
Yes. No,
very inspiring story.
Thank you for putting it that way, because I feel that that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And my mom
wouldn't give up on you.
She wouldn't give up on me, and she went up against the school board herself because the school system basically didn't have enough resources, didn't really understand what was happening. And she built this massive file of everything that had happened to me throughout the years. And in the 7th grade, went up to the school board alone and got me identified as having learning differences. My grades went from C's and D's to straight A's. I still was challenged, but I now was able to, all these tools that I was sort of survival tools, I was able to put into action. And the other thing too is that she just, she made me feel like I had superhuman, like that I was a superhero, right? And that I had this ability. She just said, like,
she did not buy into what they were saying.
She would say that, like, you don't live by the labels. You have these like powers that you're going to tune into and use and do amazing things in the world. And I started to believe that. And that's the
power of words in that way. The power of words, so transformational. I mean, listen, we all come from these really, really, many of us come from very traumatic backgrounds. Many people. I mean, I'm a therapist that works with trauma, basically. And what I'm constantly telling people is that cannot define you. I mean, you want it to define you, but because it's comfortable and it's familiar, but don't allow it to define you, and keep dreaming and usually using visualization and lighting up your brain to keep that inspirational learning part of you awake and alive, so you can actually change you and then, change the world.
Right? And I think there was even like, when I was younger, I just remember even just like fantasizing about having superpowers. And that
fantasizing is powerful.
It was really powerful. And there was because when teachers would ask questions of me or on tests, it was almost like I saw many possible answers. Like there were all these possibilities, and I didn't know what answer the teacher wanted.
Right.
And so for me, it was, I was constantly sort of, I was constantly getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I needed this sort of ability to fantasize, to be able to keep going, to say like, oh, there's something beyond this. And
a powerful force in your life. Your mother wouldn't let you just believe in the failure.
Exactly.
And I think she inspired all of this in many ways.
She did. Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Which, I always talk about be the hero of your lineage, be the hero of what it is you've come from, so that you can be the person that actually transforms everything for your entire lineage, because it's impacting us, right? All of our, where we've come from.
Yeah. And my children recognize it too. Like, as I've like sort of, made a lot of transitions and been really doing the work, they notice it, the interactions have changed, and with Jessica and, like everybody sees it. And I think that, that's another beautiful thing about all of this. So, yeah. Jeff,
I could talk to you for another hour. Oh, there it is. There it is.
That's the hour.
So I'm going to say to everybody, I'm going to be posting this on my various platforms, but share this, interact with it, so the world can experience more of a lit state of being, so that we can change the world. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you so much.
And it's definitely mutual.
Thank you so much. And we'll
your energy.
Thank you. I love yours. So we will talk again.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
All right.
Yeah.